It's not actually live, so I can see it on here, and I'll put it on there for the Google Classroom people later. Isn't this cool how I did this up here? I'm really excited about the way I did this thing. All right, so the intro question asked for what is your definition of science, right? What'd you say?
I said it's like chemicals or something.
Chemicals or something. Somebody else say something different? Even if you didn't answer that question, what would you say science is? Let's say you're trying to connect to the internet at your house. How are you going to figure out what's wrong to connect to the internet? Like, if it's not working, if the internet's not working at your house, what do you try first? What do you do first to try to make it work?
Reset the router.
Reset the router? Okay. That's to see if the problem is the router, right? If you reset the router and it still doesn't work, what do you do then? Anybody else? I know y'all tried to fix the internet at your house because the internet breaks all the time.
I just call AT&T.
Yeah, okay. And have they ever told you something helpful to tell you what the problem is?
Yeah, it's not so it's cutting my wire.
Yeah, so you know the next step might be to check with the company. See, okay, maybe the router works, but the pipes are broken. So that's a thing. If your router is like way in the other room, you might go closer to the router and see like maybe there's some interference today. I don't know, or maybe I need to move my router. So that's science. You're doing science there. You're making observations. The internet works when I go in this room. It doesn't work when I go in this room. You're making the observation of the internet doesn't work. I reset the router. It still doesn't work. So maybe it's not the router. It's a process of making observations and drawing conclusions based on those. Now, there's some things that you can't really observe. I hope this video is doing all right. How y'all doing, video people? There's some things you can't really observe. What's something that science really doesn't really work to test? Like, you can do psychology experiments and find out stuff. Like, here's something cool that I learned recently. Since 1990, when people started using keyboards a lot, the number of they looked at which letters were included in people's first names before 1990 and after 1990. And after 1990, there's more letters in people's first names that are typed with the right hand of the keyboard. Because even for left-handed people, but apparently there's some sort of bias that we have for things typed with the right hand. It's like, oh, that name just looks better. We feel better about those letters because we're familiar with typing them with our right hand. It's neat. So that can be science. It's not all super concrete stuff like if the pipes are connected for the internet or whatever. But like there's certain beliefs that you have that science is not for those. Like if you believe that your favorite color is blue, there's not a real way to test for that. Yeah, you could do science, like you could do psychology experiments to ask a bunch of people, tell them how they feel, like put them in rooms of different colors and have somebody go be rude to them in each room and figure out how they rated their feelings after that and figure out, okay, which room color has an effect on. But another thing that science isn't really for is your faith. If you have a faith-based belief, then like that's the whole point of it. It's science isn't for testing that, and it can't really test it. It's they're whole separate things, but they're not at odds with each other. You can still, figure out if the remote doesn't work because of the batteries or because if it's just broken with the scientific method. We use it all the time. That's what I have to say about definition of science.